Filter effects can be applied to text fields to perform blurs, glows, drop shadows, and other effects. This lesson demonstrates the use of these effects upon text fields. So here I have a blank document open, and I'm going to choose the text tool so that I can create a bit of text. Let's make some red text, rather large, and we will just type out a little bit of text here. And actually, I want to make that even larger. There we go. So now that I have this text field created, I can go in and collapse the rest of these panels and expose my filters. So using filters, we can go down and add a filter. So let's go in and add a drop shadow to this. You can see by default, it adds the drop shadow, and it's pretty dark. We can go in and adjust things like the blur along both X and Y. We can choose the strength, the quality of the drop shadow, the angle, the distance from our text field, and whether to knock out our text, to apply the shadow internally, or to hide our text. We can also choose the color of our drop shadow. So we can do something like this green color if we really wanted to, or choose something a little more subtle. Let's have a look at blur. Blur allows us to obviously blur out our text. So this can get quite extreme. We can again choose quality, and in this one we can choose blur settings. So not too bad. I'm actually going to hide down here to disable the blur filter and the drop shadow filter. If you put too many filters on an object, they start doing some strange collisions. I want to show these as they're sort of in their native state. So here's a glow filter. Maybe I'll choose black for that. I normally use medium quality for just about everything. High quality I find isn't really all that necessary to make it look good, and it's more CPU intensive when Flash renders it. Low quality, in some cases, if you're looking for that sort of effect, it's okay. But I find medium is the nicest to my eyes. So we can change the blur settings of our glow, the strength, and again the color, whether to knock out or have an inner glow. I'll hide that. We can choose bevel, which provides this bevel effect, and by default it looks pretty nasty, right? So I'm going to go in and choose medium, probably take that strength down a bit. The distance is something that you could change. And the type is unique here. We haven't seen this yet, so you can choose an inner bevel, an outer bevel, or a full bevel, which is both inner and outer. You can adjust the coloring of the highlight. So this is really the best way to actually make adjustments when it comes to getting the bevel to look nicer than the default. Because by default it does a stark black and white, which isn't really all that pleasing to the eye. Shadow is just fine there. So that looks a little nicer. That's a nicer bevel effect. We can also go in and choose to do, aside from just a regular glow and bevel, we can do a gradient glow or a gradient bevel. And really the only difference is that we're using a gradient this time when we apply that. Everything else is the same. And then we can choose Adjust Color Filter, which does basic color adjustments, so things like brightness, contrast, saturation, and hue. So let's actually go in and choose to enable all of the filters here. So you can see, as I mentioned before, when all filters are enabled, they start looking pretty nasty. So you're going to want to use these filters sparingly as you go through the text items here, and actually begin applying filters in an intelligent way to your text. So this has been an example of a variety of ways of using filters on text fields within Flash Professional CS6.